You've probably heard it said before, don't mix with your eyes, only mix with your ears. And it's good advice. I've given that advice. But there are visual cues that can be helpful. For example, as a guitar player, ultimately you should be able to hear if your guitar is out of tune. Ideally, you can say, oh man, that D string is out of tune, and then you go fix it. But to fix it, what do? You use a tuner, which gives you visual feedback. In a perfect world, you should be able to just hear and turn it until it's in tune, and there are some people who can do that, but most of us use some sort of a tuner to give us visual feedback. We heard a problem, we use the tuner with its visual feedback to help us solve it. I've got a similar tool to use in mixing that works in almost exactly the same way. It's called the spectrum meter. So here inside of the project page, the spectrum meter is this big, beautiful thing in the middle of the project page that takes up a huge amount of screen real estate that shows us what's happening in the frequencies. It shows us everything from 20 hertz up to 20,000 hertz. This is the range of human hearing. It's just showing us a visual representation of what we're hearing. These frequencies are typically louder than these frequencies, so on and so forth. So how is this helpful? It's a lot like a guitar tuner. When I hear something in the mix that bothers me, I can then look at the spectrum meter and see if there's anything visually happening that matches up with what I'm hearing with my ears. So for example, in this song, this is a cover for a critique live stream that I did. Real briefly, I'll let you hear the vocal. What I was hearing in the vocal feels like a lot of extra high frequencies in the vocal, and especially in the very, very top, like the S's and the T's, and just the overall high frequencies felt very prominent. And then I saw visually that, oh, look at this. There's a bump up here in the highs that confirmed what I was hearing. So quickly it sounded like this. So that's a cover of a Pearl Jam song, but the sounds fantastic, but that vocal came across crispy, and then I was visually able to see basically whenever the singer sang, there would be a bump up here in the spectrum meter. And so that gives me, in this example, gives me a place to say, hey, Barry, cut the high frequency boost at like 10K and above on the vocal. It doesn't need it. And I'm able to give him specific frequencies to adjust. If I was working on this in mastering, that would be where I would go with my EQ to try to tame that down, or dynamic EQ or something like that. So the way the spectrum meter works, we're looking for a balance of frequencies. We don't want one range of frequencies to be way louder than the others, because that doesn't sound right to our ears. The way this works is it's on a bit of a slant, at least the way I like to look at it. So that horizontal, that kind of diagonal line that runs like this, that's showing me roughly what flat looks like. And so if I see any area that's really jumping up, and it's usually like this, and typically the high frequencies will roll off a little bit, and that sounds fine to me. But it's more than that. I just want to see if I hear a problem, and can I visually confirm it? It's kind of like, I need the confirmation of two witnesses. One is my ears, the other are my eyes. I hear something, and then I visually see where the problem is happening. I can see it. So it's not just in my head. I can actually see it visually happening on the screen, and that gives me more confidence in knowing that I've found the problem, I've identified the problem, and I can now go deal with it. If you don't use a spectrum meter, maybe it's because of people like me who have said, don't use your eyes, just use your ears. You have to use your ears, but this can be a great supplement to what you hear. Not everybody has golden ears, but I'll let you in a little secret. I don't have golden ears either. I could listen to something and say, man, it sounds like something in like the 2.5K range is being problematic. And a lot of times I'm close to right. I'm within, I'm in the ballpark of that thing that I heard. That just comes from experience. Just like a grandmaster in chess can look at a chessboard and see things that I don't see because I'm just an average, mediocre chess player, that person has invested a lot more time. So they're going to look at something and see it differently than I will. In the same way that if you're new to audio, I'm going to see things in the spectrum meter that you don't see. I'm going to hear things in the mix that maybe you don't hear yet. But this can be a great educational tool to use your eyes to help your ears. To help your ears learn a little bit better of what it is that you're hearing and identifying the problem faster. Repeat that process over and over, and next thing you know, 6 months from now, you're finding problems almost automatically and solving them without even thinking, because this is the language we use in audio. It's frequencies. Everything we do happens between 20 and 20. 20 hertz, 20 kilohertz. It all happens in here. We got plenty of tools to use to make what happens in there sound amazing, but 9 times out of 10, the problem you're hearing is there's a certain frequency that's being obnoxious, that's being selfish. We have to go punish that frequency by turning it down with EQ, or maybe dynamic EQ, or maybe multiband compression. But realistically, it's EQ. We hear frequencies out of balance, we fix them. We come back and listen. We listen for the next thing that's out of balance, and then we fix it. That's it. That's mixing. That's making music. You put things in, and then you mush stuff down until it feels balanced, and that's music. Does that sound boring? Maybe. Is it repetitive? Sure. Is it the way to make music? Yes. So if you've not used Spectrometer to give you that edge, I recommend adding it to your setup. If not in your mastering sessions on the project page, add the Spectrometer plugin on the main output of your songs. And whenever you're doing your final listen, one of the things I teach my students is when you're getting close to finishing your mix, give it a full listen from start to finish and don't touch any plugins. Listen from the very beginning all the way to the end, and all you do is take notes about what you don't like. So vocal too loud in verse, bass feels muddy in chorus, and you just do that. What I'm recommending is to do that same process, but to add in, open up the Spectrometer and just have it sitting there visually on your screen. And then you're listening and you're watching. And if something you hear and then you see it match up with something you see, then it goes on the list. You might say, chorus muddy dash 120 question mark, because you saw something like right here. 128 just bounced out right there. I don't know if that's a problem or not. Just the fact that it bounced up there, it might just be a really cool bass note. Might not need anything. But if I hear it and it sounds off and then I see it visually, well, now I know I've got some good data as to where to go hunting to potentially fix that problem. And once we get through with our listen, we do the things on our list, and then we repeat the process. And adding this visual element might be really helpful. You may not have to do it forever, but I found that using a Spectrometer when doing critiques has made me a better critiquer, and has made me a better listener and a better mix engineer, a better musician, because I become, every time it's ingraining even more exactly what these different frequencies sound like. So I'm able to find problems like that and fix them almost without even thinking. So make this a part of your workflow, and you'll see improvements, I promise. Thanks for watching. See ya.